natural challenge that the Confederate infantrymen faced on that day, let alone having to deal with their enemies. As you can see on its western half of the Gaines Mill battlefield, it was very daunting. And between the terrain and the volume of Federal fire through the afternoon of June 27th, it might have given you some idea why the Confederates were stymied out here in the early going. But they weren't done yet. General Lee had come out here to fight, make a fight to the finish that day. As long as there was daylight, he was going to try. As many of you probably already know, he was severely hampered, he and his hired commanders. None of them had their cell phones with them. None of them had their radios with them. Of course, it didn't exist then. But this is a challenge as the commander, R.E. Lee, faced that day. Bob somewhat alluded to it. Using 4 separate routes, he had to guide 7 different infantry divisions into this neighborhood, then tried to find the Federal troops and figure out where they were, and then tried to crush them. It was a daunting task in coordination for the Army of Northern Virginia's High Command. And as far as General Lee's part, it took all afternoon to get the job fully done. But just in the earliest part of the evening, for the first time that day, it was possible for the Army of Northern Virginia out here to move together as one. And the climax of the battle was at hand. Most of the Confederate infantry divisions attacked in that final assault. A.P. Hill's division basically did not, because it was all fought out. It fought all through the afternoon in the center of the battlefield. But with that exception, eventually all the others got into action, just kind of grasping around the Federal position out here along the banks of Boatswain's Creek. And for the Federal troops, the pressure kept building as the early evening went on. There was no time, obviously, for the Confederates to lose. Of course, they were on standard time. About 7 p.m., the sun would begin to set. By 8 p.m., it'd be pitch dark out here. And it was already getting on near 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But at last, in somewhat of fits and starts, as they had to send couriers around to pass the orders, the Confederates started forward. And the Federals tried to hold them off here. What was it like to be in this particular area? What was it like to be out here in that early evening of that hot, humid Friday so long ago? Well, of course, to our great good fortune, we have our faithful correspondent, Lieutenant Barziza, with a very good contemporary account of what happened out here. And of course, the man in the 4th Texas Infantry Regiment, Bob, used part of his account on the other part of the ravine. But the Texans, of course, went on. And what was it like? Barziza wrote about that. He said, when we got to the brow of the hill, up there on the far side of the ravine, instead of halting, we rushed down it, yelling, and madly plunged right into the deep branch of water at the base of the hill. Dashing up the steep bank, being within 30 yards of the enemy, we flew toward the breastworks, cleared them, and slaughtered the retreating devils as they scampered up the hill. Leaping over the work, we dashed up the hill, driving them before us, because this time the Army of Northern Virginia was not going to be stopped. Now, at least John Hood's men, Chase Whiting's whole division, perhaps had some tactical advantage in that this was their first assault of the day. They were fresh, they had full cartridge boxes. At least probably half of James Longstreet's division was in a similar situation. And most of Jackson's command probably was too. Now on the other side of the hill, to use B.H. Little Hart's famous title, there was Porter guys. And Porter's guys by late afternoon were not in the best of shape. Unlike most of the Confederate attackers, they'd been out here all day. They had repeatedly withstood Confederate assaults. Some of the units by late afternoon were running low on ammunition if they weren't already out. It was a hot, humid June day. Most of Porter's men had gotten no sleep the night before. So the Federal defenders by early evening in most places out here in the Gaines Mill battlefield were not at their best. And that probably had an effect too. But there's no denying that in most places the Confederate attackers were intent on getting through. They knew they had to get across this ravine. This is probably one of the most dangerous places to be, having to come down it wade the stream, and then charge up it, being fired upon the whole time. Chase Whiting, John Hood were right. Best thing to do is not to stop anywhere near here, but to keep going. And so in that early evening, at various places here along the 2-mile wide battlefront, like a dam beginning to break open, here and there, Confederate regiment or 2 or 3 began to break through, and Porter's men, some in good order, some in not so good order, began withdrawing up out of the ravine, heading to the open tableland beyond. Of course, the 4th Texas Infantry Regiment with Lieutenant Barziza and John Hood were near right where we are now. The 18th Georgia Infantry Regiment was right behind them. At the same time, or very near the same time, a few hundred yards here to the west, Cadmus Wilcox's brigade of Alabamians broke through. Far to the east, in the center part of the battlefield, one of the largest brigades in Lee's army that day, Georgians under A.R. Lawton, arrived on the battlefield. They were one of the later units to arrive. They were fresh, and I'll have to forgive General Lawton for trying to kind of be effusive in his praise, because this comes from his official report of the battle. But he does mention something about that with their arrival, with the brigade formed in line, went into the assault, the center part of the battlefield, 3,500 strong, or about those. He said when they opened fire, the effect of 3,500 rifles had a decided effect upon the enemy. And it probably did. So that was what it was like. But it was only, if you will, the first part of the attack. The Confederate attackers had managed to get themselves across Boatman's Creek. But the battle was not yet won, and not yet ended. They still had to chase Porter's guys out of here, and hopefully at best drive them into the Chickahominy River. But to talk about that, if you will walk with me again, we'll make our way from one strategic spot of shade to another out here on the old battlefield. We will somewhat follow the Texans and the Georgians coming behind them up the hillside here before us, because somewhere near here is where they came across, very near where we're standing now, and try to get up on the high ground where we find out what they tried to accomplish there. But before we go, you have the question.
You mentioned artillery from the Union side. Does the Confederate side have any?
Yes, the difficulty was in this western part of the battlefield, there were very few good places for artillery to be placed. On the center part of the battlefield, and especially on the eastern part of the battlefield, where it was more open, the terrain was more gentle, it was a different story. But indeed, out here on this extreme western end, on the Federal side, this was held by George Morrell's division. They could only, just to use the Federal defenders here as an example, because it was so wooded out here, they could only find places set up 4 guns along a battlefront that stretched a few hundred yards, because that was the only place there were openings in the trees where they could be effective. So at least as far as firing through the woods. Perhaps when you get up on the open fields, it would be a different story. If you'll come with me, please.